This is the 5 Point Play podcast with the raw music. Excellent. Off to a hot start. This is what happens when AC, sets everything up for your boy TK. We got D, the always controversial D, the Do fan. He's back. And then our special guests today are from the SEC. To play in a couple of days, Daniel from Gator Podcast and Blake back again on the Auburn side. We wanted to have these two on. We tried to get Houston on here, but they said that they didn't want to talk before game
They're
time. So
practicing. They're practicing defense. It's fine.
and that's fine, and
They're
that's fine.
they're running defensive sets.
But we wanted to talk to the whichever one of these two teams wins, whoever the next matchup may be. So that's why we invited these guys on. Look, it's the first time since 2008 that all four number one seeds have made the Final Four. It's it's only fitting that this year is the year to do that, especially when those analytic folks they see the Ken Palm top 10 since 1997. Four of these teams are in the top 10. If you're like D and you just say I only go by the eye test, if you watch these four teams, I think we identified them on our podcast very early in the year, maybe even before the new year, and we're saying okay, these are the best four teams. And so I think it's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere down in San Antonio. I do think that, and Betty Marcus have Duke as the favorite. Florida's right after us,
They do.
and then Auburn and Houston. So first of all, congratulations, we're all here, so that's great. But Daniel, I'll start with you because Florida is the hot hand right now. They're the team that everybody expected to. They were the sexy pick after the SEC tournament, going through the gauntlet that was the SEC. They were the sexy pick as the national champion. I think both Jay Williams and Jay Billis picked Florida, so I'm sorry about that in advance for that curse. But kind of going into this Final Four matchup, obviously you got the better of Auburn in the regular season matchup that you guys had. How do you feel going into this one? What does Florida have to do to keep Auburn at bay?
To be honest, you think I'd be really like, oh yes, we got Auburn. We beat them on the road this year by 9 and had a double-digit lead most of the second half. You think I'd really be up, you know, up for it and happy. I mean, I am, but I'm also a little bit cautious because, like you said, Florida was the sexy pick going into the tournament. However, during the tournament, we have yet to put together a complete game. Whether it's been after we got up big against Norfolk State, we kind of, took our foot off the gas. Obviously, the Yukon game had plenty of issues. The Maryland game, first half, we set a high for the year in turnovers in a single half. And then, of course, the Texas Tech game.
No,
For
no
example,
business winning.
no, but we did. But we also, in the second half, went 12 minutes with only 3 field goals. And I tweeted from my personal account, I go, you just can't go 12 minutes with only 3 field goals. Of course,
Fact.
at the end, ended up hitting some major threes, both Thomas Haw and Walter Clayton, who's become a guy who, when we need a clutch moment, he's the guy to come in. Now, had we come in continuing to put together complete games like we did in the SEC tournament when we took down Missouri and Alabama and Tennessee, I'd feel a little bit better coming into this matchup. But at the same time, I kind of like that we've had the struggles in that it helps us, hopefully, for a third weekend, it kicks in where we're focusing more and doing what we need to do for 40 minutes rather than, 10, 20, or 4.5, as we saw the other night against Texas Tech.
Yeah, Blake, from the Auburn side, this obviously is a revenge game. But more than that, you were expected. You were the number one overall seed. You were expected to be here. You didn't have, you had your share of struggles at the end of the year. Obviously, losing 3 of your last 4, right? So, and then not winning the SEC tournament as the number one team. I was a little surprised, and I think you will echo this as well, that you guys were the number one overall seed, given the finish that you had. Where does Auburn I mean, they're almost playing with house money now because people are doubting them, even as being the number one overall seed. What is Auburn's mindset coming into this weekend?
Well, gentlemen, just let that sink in for a second. Auburn University is the number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament. I told y'all before we started recording, I never thought that would happen a day in my life. And so, look, we lost 3 out of 4 coming into the tournament. And when I tell people this, look at who we lost to. We lost to Texas A&M on the road on a Tuesday night after winning the SEC Saturday at Rupp Arena. If you know anything about the history of Auburn basketball, we have not fared well at Rupp Arena. So we had a celebration at Rupp. We partied on their court, and we had a fun time, right? And those guys, they'll let you know that Tuesday night they were sleepwalking at A&M. There was no Denver Jones. We got beat. We lost by double digits, and you turn around on senior night, you lose to Mark Sears on a buzzer beater in overtime. I'll take that. Alabama, one of the best 8 teams in the country. I'm not mad about that one. And then you lose to Tennessee on a game where it could have went either way. You should have hit a couple free throws down the stretch. You didn't. And, me personally, I think it was a good thing that Auburn lost a couple games down the stretch. And I told you guys this. I just felt like Auburn, they had gotten into a mentality where they were a little cocky. And Auburn had gotten into a brand of basketball where they get up on teams and that they know they're better than, and they would start playing loose basketball. And I think you needed to get knocked back to reality a little bit, and that's what happened. And you saw in the first game of the tournament against Alabama State, they come out and they look like, hey, we're better than Alabama State. We don't really want to be here. And Alabama State was down 1 with 1:42 to play in the first half, and Auburn closed it out on a 9-0 run. And Dylan Cardwell called the team out right after the game, and he just told them, he was like, hey, this is it, like we have 10 seniors, like you're the number one overall seed. If you lose, the same old story is going to come out. Auburn can't make it out of the first weekend, and you can't be this dominant all year and spend that many weeks at number one and lose to Florida and still stay number one. And you just got to play better. And Stephen Pearl, he called the team out, and he looked at Janai and said, hey, look, I'm going to call names. I'm not going to let you slide. You have to play better. And I felt like they responded against Creighton. And when I look at Florida, man, we just can't play like we did against Michigan. If we turn the ball over like we did against Michigan, I mean, we were very lucky to win that game. I feel like if Tahad Pettiford didn't have the day that he had, we probably would have been in trouble against Michigan. But I'm just excited to be here. The game with Florida, it does scare me because I feel like they bullied us in our house. I feel like they punched us in the mouth. They out rebounded us. They out hustled us. And I feel like you can't let that happen again. And Walter Clayton, if you give him second and third chance opportunities, he's going to make you pay. And they have multiple guards that can get buckets. We know what they got down low. And I feel like Janai Broom's got to go right at Condon. Like he can't let him big boy him this time. And because I felt like Condon made life so difficult on Janai in that first matchup. And you got to be physical down there with him, man. And Auburn, just if you get punched in the mouth, you got to respond this time. I felt like we didn't respond in the first matchup.
All right, Thies, I'm gonna move to you here. So after hearing these two very objective takes on their respective teams, what are you feeling here in this matchup?
I'm not gonna go to any specifics on anything about Florida or anything about Auburn. I'm just like listening to both of you. It just kind of solidifies what I've been saying all year. Like the SEC looks like the best team one day, and then they get beat by 40 the next day. Like Florida cooked Tennessee, and then 2 weeks later got cooked by Tennessee, and and the same with Auburn. Like they had one great game where they cooked, and then they turn around and they get punched in the mouth. I just there's not a lot of consistency from the SEC, and I've been saying this all year, and it's not a slight on either one of you two dudes or your fan bases. Like you deserve to be in this spot. Florida has gone ghostly underrated in my opinion all year. I think they can score with the best of them, but they have lapses. Blake, you brought it up. Like you missed two front ends of 1-and-1, like and that cost you the game. Like I say all the time, like free throws win games. TK, I say that. That's my thing. Like short of three amazing shots from Florida, where we're talking to Texas A&M or Texas Tech or whoever the hell from Texas it was playing. They got 12 teams, but I've said the SEC has been the best teams I've ever seen this season, and then the sloppiest and like weakest teams I've seen all season. And like I like to bring up the Florida Tennessee matchups because it was so one-sided both ways. Like it was wild to me. And I have a good friend who's a huge Tennessee fan, so I watched both of those games through and through, and they were a coin flip difference. It was heads and tails. So
right, didn't help. Walter Clayton was missing for most of the game and injured against Tennessee. But yes, it was not a good showing before that. But there is a little bit of actual context in there.
One thing I'll say too is taking up from my SEC guys is we did have 7 out of 16 teams in the Sweet 16, and that's the first time that has ever happened in the history of the NCAA tournament. And we also had
20 teams of the SEC in the tournament, so you had a quarter of the field.
I get that, but that speaks to like how difficult the conference was this year. I think that.
Easy. Oh, sorry.
No, you take the freshman kid from Texas, the Johnson kid. I thought he was spectacular. I thought he was a star, and he elevated them into the tournament. Like you could go to Austin on a Tuesday night and lose. You could go to Como on a Wednesday night and lose. You guys had trouble with Missouri, right, Daniel?
Yep.
I know. I think y'all played them twice and struggled with them. I think y'all lost to them once, didn't you?
Trouble with Georgia too.
Yeah, we had trouble when we played them at home, and Grill put up like 20 points in the first half. I think he went 8 for 8 from threes or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which I know is really common in basketball, guys going like 7 and 8 or 8 for 8 of threes. But yeah, that really got us behind and still almost came back. But yeah, had that struggle, and then we came back, got them in the SEC tournament. But yeah, I mean, when you have a bunch of top loaded teams, you're going to have instances where Florida dismantles Auburn, and then Auburn can come back and do this. I think we had 4 SEC teams blow 10-point leads in the tournament that lost, and that doesn't include Tennessee. It does include Texas, since you brought them up in that play-in game. They're up by 10, blew the lead at the end. We had Ole Miss, I think, was another one, 6 seed, should have beaten 2 seed Michigan State, but again, blew it at the end. And I think the fact that you have a 2 seed battling with that, or 10 seed Arkansas also, I think, blew a 10-point lead. So they were able to play with some of the top teams, and those are the middle of the conference. I don't want to, say, okay, well, SEC's super overrated. Now, I will say they have been overhyped at times, but I would also say when we look at how some of the middle teams in the conference have performed, getting to Sweet 16, Elite Eights, and going up on 2 seeds, I think that speaks, to what some of the top teams like Auburn had to go through, and Alabama and whatnot. Although Alabama, has played several bad games as well, including against us.
Yeah, I think.
No, just real quick, DK, and I think this goes back to the first ever SEC ACC challenge where the ACC teams won 2 games. We're talking totally different. Like if that challenge goes another way, where the SEC wins 2 games, it's the ACC can cannibalize each other and they're rewarded. Whereas this year, we got smoked in non-conference play with this whatever quad net, BS system that they have that nobody knows the formula to, and the SEC is rewarded. So I think it's all cyclical. I think it's all going to come full circle. With the ACC going through all these coaching changes, and we got Will Wade coming in and to NC State. Like I think the ACC will be back. Like I don't think the ACC is some kind of wash away basketball conference. Like let's keep it real. Like there's powerhouses here, and there's some of the best jobs in the country here, and they just got to find it back. It's a full circle situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Daniel, you brought up the right word is overhyped. Not just because I'm an ACC guy. Kind of what Dee was saying there that I agree with is I think over the last particularly 5 years the ACC's gotten a bad rap. Where the ACC's down, the ACC's down, the ACC's down. ACC historically at the beginning of the year has had some really bad losses across the board, and I think that the narrative begins and is taking on a life of its own. Now, I will say the ACC this year was down, historically bad. And so when we had our show last week, we had the Arizona guys on, and he brought up a question to us and saying, is that going to hurt Duke? And my response to that was, I don't think so, because each game lended itself to a different situation that we had to respond to. So when I listen to you guys talk about the different pieces of adversity that you've had to go throughout the year, that's what makes these 4 teams, in my opinion, the best 4 teams in the country, because they've had to all individually deal with different parts of adversity, whether it is losing games that you shouldn't have lost, or having fights on the team plane, or whatever it might be. Like you've had to deal with those sorts of things. And the reason that I say that is because each team has their own individual story, and each one of these 4 teams, if I'm their fan base, I say, why not us? Because we've had to go through X, Y, Z to get here. And so with us from Duke, right, for us, it's kind of like we had to overcome the first 2 years of the John Shire era, where we peaked kind of toward that ACC tournament area, and then we kind of faltered a little bit after that. Obviously, there's excuses in the first year with injuries. The second year, that team, Dee and I talk about this all the time, that team was soft. And then this year's team is kind of been an absolutely perfect conglomerate of experience, talent, and tough dudes, and a coaching staff and a program to match. It's finally John Shire's program, and that's something we talk about all the time. And I think that's why this is the first time in my lifetime, maybe D, that Duke is a likable team. We have a bunch of guys that just do everything. They're unselfish. They play hard. They have phenomenal defense. And so when I look at Auburn and Florida, I look at 2 teams that are really, really good. I also look at 2 teams that, kind of like both of your points though earlier, that are a little bit inconsistent. And so it's going to be really interesting to see which team for both of y'all show up. And so, we'll talk about the Duke Houston matchup and who you guys would rather play, and that, after this. But I want to get right to a couple predictions, because it is a Duke podcast, and we wait till the end. But I want to get from the horse's mouth here, Daniel. Give me a score. Who's winning the Auburn Florida game?
Yeah, I like it, TK. I want to see these two
Yeah.
dudes go at it real quick. Like, let's go.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Content.
Oh yeah.
Content.
No. I will say, and this is something I tell people when I pop on other podcasts during football season. As I've said, mostly I do football, but doing basketball for you guys tonight. I don't pick against Florida. I admit my biases, and usually it's, hey, here's why. Even when I've appeared on Georgia's podcast 2 years in a row, knowing that the likelihood of us getting blown out was, high. But with that said, I do think, and this is something we talked about ahead of time. So Blake probably knows what's coming because I'm taking his points, which was Elijah Martin, who's probably our top defender, did not play in that game against Auburn earlier.
Yep.
And then one of our big men off the bench was Sam Alexis, who he's an all right player, but he's come back from injury and has not seen any real minutes since he's come back because Michael Hanlogton, a guy who got injured right at the start of the final of the SEC tournament back in 2024, decided February 15th was going to be his day to come in, burn his red shirt. And at 7'1", big body like that, who was the starter of a team that overachieved last year, in my opinion, up until he went out by making the SEC tournament final. Now he's another big body and a higher quality big body that can come in and help at least provide 5 more fouls against Janai Broom, if not, also more production than Sam Alexis. That's not a knock to him, but when you're talking, 2 players, it's just the higher ceiling player. Plus you have Condon. So I think there's a chance with this team that, especially if they come out and be consistent, or if Walter Clayton, which I think I said earlier, didn't have many points in the first half, if he comes out and is playing like he does at the end of games at the beginning, I think there's a chance that we could be seeing, and I'm sure you don't want me to say it now, so I'll just say the winner of Duke and Houston on Monday night. But I'm sure Blake probably has a feeling about the Tigers. So Blake, tell us why the Tigers are going to win.
Can I ask you a question, Blake, real quick before you?
Yeah.
How healthy is Janai Broom? Like, what is the?
Auburn isn't going to say a peep about his health. They're not going to say a word.
You don't have any. You haven't heard anything or anything. Okay.
No,
Right.
I can tell you this: he's going to play, and
Sure.
he's going to start, and he's going to give it a go.
It looked like he took 3 pain shots the other day because that arm was just.
That's a fact.
Loosey goosey. Like, I don't think he could feel it. But
and
I just wanted to ask that before you answer this question, because that has a lot to do with the outcome of this game. Correct?
No doubt, 100%. And I'll tell you this: when he went down against Michigan State, my heart went straight to my stomach, man, because I was like, not this way. Because in 2019, I know it was a different type of run, but we were playing North Carolina in the Sweet 16. We were the 5 seed; they were the 1 seed. Nobody gave us a chance, and we absolutely blew their doors off. And we lost Chumo Kiki, and he was one of our forwards. He was length, man. He could shoot the 3 ball. He could go in and play in the paint and bang. And he was just one of those 6'8", 6'9" dudes that could just absolutely get a bucket. And you ended up beating Kentucky in the Elite Eight, and the Final Four happened, and you just felt like with him we would have won the national championship in 2019 if he didn't get hurt. So when you saw Janai go down, the first thing
reading his lips, right? Like,
yeah, when
I don't
he was
know
like,
what you
"I'm
read,
done,"
but I see. I read, "I'm hurt, I'm done, I'm out." Like one of those two.
Yeah, and I was like, "Not this way again, man! Like we
that
just
sucks.
can't keep one of our best players through the tournament. Like it's always going to happen like this." And to see him come back against Michigan State, hit the 3 ball, in my opinion, that's a top 3 moment in my opinion, hell, it's a top 2 moment in Auburn basketball history.
It's like
Because
Michael Jordan flu game type shit.
yeah, because I put the 2019 Final Four run up there in that conversation just because it had never happened before. And so I don't know how healthy he is, but I know he's going to play. And I just think the student got the teacher the first go around, and in the second go around on the big stage, the teacher schools the student. And Bruce Pearl was he hired Todd Golden at Auburn when he first took the Auburn job, and Todd Golden, he said on Pardon My Take, Bruce said that Todd learned things that Auburn was really good at. He learned things that Auburn was pretty bad at, and he took all of that stuff and he went out to the West Coast at San Francisco, and then went to Florida, and he built his program the way he wanted to, and he's done a great job. But I think Auburn is ready for this game. We were told against Michigan that they had 2 7-footers. We were going to get bullied like we did the first time against Florida. We couldn't rebound with them. Danny Wolf beat us in the first round last year when he was at Yale. We had to hear that for a week. And this Auburn team has heard nothing but Florida is going to spank you again. And I think you're going to get the Tahad Pettiford show in San Antonio. And I think he's one of the best freshmen
I agree
in the country. And I know he had a night in Cameron Indoor. He was a dog. And I just want Auburn and Duke one more time, y'all. And don't get me wrong. I think Florida is, they are a hell of a team. I just want Auburn and Duke one more time, because I feel like all year from top to bottom, they have been the 2 best teams from start to finish. And I think it would be, it would kind of be a Debbie Downer, I guess you could say, is if we don't get to see those 2 play in the national championship game.
All I got to say to that, Blake, is 4 of the 5 best Duke players in that Auburn game didn't show up. It took a freshman who's not played 1 minute of college basketball to come in and hit 16 in a row.
That was insane.
If you want round 2, dude, I'm not mad about it. I want round 2. At least we have familiarity. We know what to look at. We know what to game plan for. Florida is a different animal because they're so, you don't know.
The reason why it's also for like a historic thing for me is like getting people ask, like, who would you rather play? I would rather play Houston, no doubt.
No shit, because you can. You and them can score on Houston,
and I don't want to see.
Right?
Realistically, I don't want to see Cooper Flagg in the national championship game. I don't want to see Sion James. I don't want to see Knipple, and the list goes on and on.
Proctor's a god.
Yeah, dude's been playing lights out. Big shot kid. He just insane. But we played in Cameron Indoor, and to meet back in the national championship game against a blue blood, one of the greatest college basketball programs of all time, like, just being an Auburn fan, that would be the most badass season ever in the history of our program, y'all.
Now, we called it, and we called it before that game. We're going to see each other again.
And I'll tell y'all this, like, whoever wins this tournament, which I think it'll be one of us 3, you freaking earned it, man.
Yep.
Like, this was all the people out there, I call them casuals, that are saying this was the worst NCAA tournament of all time because of no Cinderellas. That's BS, in my opinion. I think this has been the best tournament. I think the best 4 teams made the Final Four, and I think whoever wins this tournament, they did it the hard way, and they can stand up there proud and dance to one shining moment because they did it.
Yeah,
I will say this. Somebody fact check me. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, TK, but the last time that Final Four was in,
it
was all number 1. It was all number ones, right?
It
Yep.
was all number
2008.
one, 2008
Yep.
in San
That was
Antonio,
San
same
Antonio.
dates.
which I believe is the only other time it's
It's the only other
happened.
time
Yeah.
since we went to 64.
Yep. It's insane.
It is insane. And the other thing that I wanted
Let's
to
go after it.
exactly, Blake, I think that uh, a lot of things you said there, I completely agree with. I think it will be the Pettiford show. I don't think that Auburn is going to find a way to win this game. I think that they just throughout the whole, and which by the way, congratulations, Daniel, because I'm always wrong. So, happy for you from that perspective. But yeah, for Auburn though, I just think that they're destined to be in the title game. I think they obviously, like you said, they lost the last three of the last 4 games, but it may have been a good thing for them. I think Broom finds a way to play. I think he's going to play well. I think you have a chip on your shoulder for being the only number one overall seed in recent memory to be underrated coming into the Final Four.
Yeah.
And I think they found a way to win this game, maybe by double digits actually.
Oh wow.
I think Florida it has been a little bit. I think they came into the tournament a little bit cocky, and I think that they've been caught on their heels quite a bit throughout the tournament, and that's why I just think that Auburn figures out a way to win this game, something to the tune of like 82-72. I think that's kind of the way I feel about it, and I do agree with you. I think it'll be the Pettiford show. I'll give you your pick on this one before we move on.
I, I'm not going to dog on any two of these two schools because, like Blake said, dude, the 4 schools that made it to this Final Four,
Yeah.
man, they went through hell and back, like hell and back. Like everybody here deserves to be here. I really think Auburn depends on how healthy is Broom. Like, how healthy is he? Can you rely on him to facilitate from inside out type situations, that so on and so forth? I will say, I think, and I believe I've said this on record on the podcast with no disrespect, that Auburn peaked early.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had their best games before January. And I think Florida was hitting their stride going into the SEC tournament, which is kind of what you want to see a team do. That being said, Florida's been wildly inconsistent, just like any other SEC team, other SEC school that I've seen. So I really think it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be an absolute shootout.
Mm-hmm.
And they're probably going to wear each other down. They're all going to be in the cold tub on Sunday morning. And then, whoever they have to play on Monday, that they just have the advantage because we got 2 heavyweights just absolutely throwing haymakers at each other. So I
No doubt.
really think that only benefits Duke, TK. So I'm not even going to give a prediction, man. I expect to see a slugfest, an absolute slugfest. I'll say this for my prediction: whoever shoots the best from the free throw line will win this game.
Mm.
Yep. What's funny is I think it was before we started, I was talking about free throw issues with Florida. You bring that up. There are times we've done well. I mean, heck, Texas Tech game you could say was decided by the free throw line, all things being considered, since Texas Tech missed several fronts of
Front
1-and-1s, and then we were
Super.
hitting both
Yep.
free throws per. But I also talked about how our loss against Georgia, which we spotted them a ton of points because we couldn't hit, played an inconsistent game, as you're talking about. But we get up by 1, and Elijah Martin, who missed the first Auburn game, missed either the front of a 1-on-1 or missed both free throws. I forget what he was shooting, to be honest. But either way, it leaves us with a 1-point lead rather than a 3-point lead. Georgia comes down, jacks a 3, and now we're in panic mode. End up losing by 5 once we play the foul game.
Yep.
But if he hits those, there's a chance we win that game. And if we win that game, we win the SEC regular season title. So I do agree on that. When we hit our free throw, when any team hits their free throws, that's probably the key. But we've seen it in particular in several specific games I can point to as Florida, as we have had, some great games and some games where, you could argue we were lucky that Texas Tech missed those. So it'll be fun. And then I'll also say this, where coming into the season, a Duke or a Auburn and possibly a Houston, they came in with a mindset of, hey, this is our year to go to the Final Four. For Florida, I mean, at this point, there are people that are going to be disappointed if we don't go further than the Final Four. But if you're looking at back from how did we feel in October, November when the season started, we'd be shocked and thrilled right now. And that's how I feel going into this. Is for us, we're playing with house money at this point. We want to do better, but we're also like, hey, we're just hoping to improve on how we did last season. We weren't expecting Final Four. So I don't know how much as now we're at this point with 4 number ones, the we weren't supposed to be here versus the pressure of we are supposed to be here and win plays out. But that's just something that popped in my head as, hey, maybe how's that playing the psyche of any of the 4 teams when we get into possible close games, whether we see them coming or not. So just like I said, something to throw out there.
No, it's definitely an us against the world mentality with Florida, because no 4 of us thought that Florida would be in the Final Four. When we were at Countdown to Craziness, DK, none of us were like, Florida is a dark horse for the final. Nobody thought that.
Yeah, I mean, and then that's the thing, is that like all 4 of these teams have something, whether it's us against the world, or we're not supposed to be here, or we've gone through more adversity, we have an injury to our best player, probably the second best player in the country. Like, we have so many different things that we can point to that say this is on a time, this is on a year. But again, it's been the 4 best teams all year. Throw out the preseason predictions because they're always wrong. They had Carolina in the top 10. So clearly they don't know what they're talking about. So for these 4 teams, though, they did play the best all season long. And that kind of gets us to the team that whoever wins this Florida Auburn matchup, what are your chances against the winner of Duke and Houston? And, Blake, you brought it up that you'd honestly rather play Houston. And I think that's probably the consensus, for both Auburn and Florida. But why do you say that? And how do you see this particular matchup going after your game?
If we advance and we were to play Houston, I feel like it's a much better matchup for Auburn than Duke. Obviously, I feel like you can score on Houston. You can outshoot Houston. I know their efficiency behind the 3-point line this year is much better. But still, like, even in that Tennessee game, man, when they went up on Tennessee, it was like, okay, just put the nail in the coffin already. And it was just like, here come Tennessee. They cut it back to 8. And then it was just like, all right, man, like, come on, quit playing. And then they finally did it. And you're like, oh, there it is. I would much rather play Houston. I feel like Denver Jones and Tahad and Miles Kelly could have big days. I feel like Janai would have a much better matchup than he would against Duke. And so, yes, I want to play Houston, but the college basketball fan in me, if we were to beat Florida, yes, I would want to play Duke. But obviously, I fear the matchup with Duke. And it's just the matchup that Janai would have down low. Cooper Flag, that's just unfair. Knipple, 6'6", 2 guard. And then you got you got Sion James. The length out there is just. You got Proctor. He's shooting the lights out of it right now. He's making big plays. Like, these dudes are unreal, man. And that's the reason. When everybody was down in the ACC this year, y'all, I said Duke is going to be fine. And they were just like, nah, man, they play in a terrible conference. Their conference just isn't leading up to anything. I'm like, y'all, they're beating people by 40 over there. All right. Yeah. It would be different if they were winning, 7, 8-point games. All right. They're beating people by 40. And look at the length that Duke has. It's 6'8", 6'8", 6'6". It's just all the way down the roster. Cooper Flag.
I think the defense goes underrated
Oh, dude,
And
it's
I
insane.
I don't really know why, other than the fact they score 80 a game. I don't know why their defense is going so underrated.
They
It's
smothered Alabama.
very, very impressive. Like, yeah, they beat Alabama by 20, held Alabama to 65. I believe Alabama averaged 80 plus during the regular season, 90
Yes.
plus in the tournament. They
Yes.
absolutely said, no, sir. No, sir. You're not scoring. And they just and they brought in fresh legs after fresh legs. Like their eighth player is going to the NBA. It's it's a wildly talented Duke team that plays team basketball. And I'm biased. Like you can see the shit behind me. You know what I mean? Like clearly I'm biased, but like no, if we really have like a basketball conversation about it, like this might be one of the best college basketball teams we've seen in a decade plus. I mean,
For sure.
they're really, really good, man. They are
For sure.
really, really good, and they're a different team than the team that played Auburn.
Yeah.
They're a different team than the team that lost to Kansas and Kentucky.
Oh,
Like
completely.
this team is really good, man, and
No
they
doubt.
play for each other. And I think they're greedy. TK, you've heard me say that all year. I think this team is greedy as hell, and they want it all. They want all of it,
Yeah,
and
they went on.
that's scary.
It is. I mean, I think the one thing I've said pretty much all year is that no matter who Duke plays, no matter how the game is going, I never feel nervous. I just
Hmm.
expect them to find a way to win, and they have resiliency. They are extremely tough, as we said earlier. They just can beat you in any different way. Like it doesn't matter who we play. I know that Houston has the number one rated defense. They're going to use that as a chip on their shoulder to
Of all
say,
time.
to say that okay, this is the number one defense. Look what we just did to the quote unquote best offense in the country in Alabama, who a team that just made 25 threes. We held them to 8 for 32. Like this team takes this shit personally. To go
Yeah.
back to that 30 for 30 last dance Michael Jordan quote that everybody wants to do, like this Duke team does take this shit personally. The fact that John Shire somehow didn't win the ACC Coach of the Year, I don't care what they say in their press conferences, they take that personally. The fact that Cooper Flagg wasn't unanimous Freshman of the Year, ACC Player of the Year, like bullshit. Like, what are we talking about here? He's the National Player of the Year, but somehow he's not. Like, it's just insanity.
Who did
There's
they?
one idiot that kept him from being unanimous in the ACC, one voter from the West Coast. But my point is that stuff like that is kind of what
Yeah,
this
they
team
don't show
thrives
their
on.
votes, so
It's what this Duke team has thrived on all year. Like they get pissed off, and kind of like Blake, what you were saying about Broome, I think it would be the same way that Duke felt when Cooper Flagg went down in the first half against Georgia Tech in the first game of the ACC tournament.
Yeah.
Our hunt sunk because that's what happened with
oh
Zion
yeah.
in
Yep.
2019 when he goes down against Carolina in the famous game when Barack's in the stands and Cameron he blows on his shoe in the first 30 seconds. Like he was the best player in the country, and we kind of never were the same after that. And we kind of felt maybe that was going to happen here, but thank God, Cooper's good. And you saw what he did against Arizona. And the thing about the Alabama game, and I'll get to you, Daniel, right after this, is that I don't think Duke played their best game. Like, and we still beat a phenomenal team by 20 and held them to 65 points. So I guess my perspective on it is I don't really care who wins. I I, I don't feel that concerned with Houston. I know they're great. It's not diminishing them. It's more how I feel about this Duke team. And if you asked me in years past, I would not say something like that. Last year's team was soft. Last year's Duke
Hmm.
team was soft. Like the fact that we got to the Elite Eight and probably should have gotten to the Final Four. We were 20 minutes away from it. Um, that was more of a fluke than the norm. This team deserves to be there. They've earned it. And I just feel like I don't care who we play. But I want your perspective when you look at this matchup with Duke and Houston. How do you see it?
I mean, I'll echo what Blake said. If I had to choose between two, who would I rather see? Definitely, I'd rather see Houston over Duke for sure. And I'll be sure to tell the city that when I fly in on Saturday. But anyways, much cheaper to just drive 3 hours than to fly directly into San Antonio.
You're going?
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
Awesome.
Well, let's go.
Maybe we'll
boys.
Maybe we'll meet up. Met up with
man.
plenty of our College Huddle friends during
Let's
football
go.
season. Of course, for some reason we can't play regularly, you guys in football,
Wow.
but we'll figure that out. But yeah, no, to get back to the question, I would rather play Houston, because there's so much talent on the Duke team, and echoing everything you guys have said, but also for Florida, I get a little superstitious as well. I mean, as I say to people, sports is superstition in some ways. Everyone's got their things. Florida's very first Final Four back in 1994. I remember watching it as a kid. And who did Florida play? You had two SEC teams in the Final Four, Arkansas and Florida. On opposite sides, though, Florida played Duke and was eliminated for our first great run. And then we got some revenge in 2000 when we made a run to the final, beating Duke in the Sweet 16. But we did not win the national title this year and that year. And the reason why I bring that up is just a superstition of, in our two national title runs in the mid 2000s, we didn't go through Duke. I mean, there are plenty of blue bloods like UCLA that we went through, but there wasn't a Duke on that run. So for me, a little bit, and I know it sounds weird, but it's just my personal history of watching Florida and Duke in the tournament, where I'm like, you know what? I would also, for that reason, since you guys have said most of the good reasons already, I'll throw something a little bit different on why I'd rather Florida play Houston. That has almost nothing to do with basketball, but at the same time, it's just that mental block of, will I see this team? But also, Duke, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are also the tallest team in the country, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's one thing that sometimes we have the advantage of is size and depth of our front court. Well, you don't necessarily have that. I'm not saying that we would have a great advantage over Auburn or Houston necessarily, but then when we face a team that for sure is bigger than us, because I know we're one of the biggest on ours as well, with the talent that comes with that. It's not just you're a big team, you're a talented team. So that's just one more thing I'll slide in there as well for if I could. Now, do I think Duke's probably going to end up playing us since I picked us? I mean, you guys know I'm wary about the Auburn matchup, but just I picked us. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup for us because it will be which team would show up in the final. Is it going to be, would it be the Florida team that, we saw take down Bama, much like Duke took down Bama when we played them in the SEC semifinals? Or is it going to be the team that, struggles for a half against Maryland because you're just giving the ball away, not even takeaways? And this is something I'd been planning to say for a while.
By Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If Walter Clayton's gone for most of the game, yeah, we definitely will get cooked. But talking about like tournament games, there's two different types of turnovers in my mind. There's giveaways and takeaways. Football example is, and sorry to pull an Auburn example, but when we beat Auburn 2019, game-winning interception, our guy has no one around him in the end zone. Bo Nix just throws up a ball to a guy who's playing center, not even playing center field, just standing there, not trying to cover anybody. That's a giveaway. And Florida's been doing lots of giveaways where takeaways, the football analogy I give is when you have cut that interception, you run, make the cut, and you make a great play on the ball. And yes, we've had some takeaways by opposing teams, but we've been doing a lot of stupid giveaways. And if that team shows up, if we were to play Duke, we're losing by 20. If the team that takes care of the ball shows up, well, it's going to be a fun, interesting night on Monday. But we'll see. I mean, what do we got as of this recording? 5 days. So
I feel like Bo Nix played with Cam Newton at Auburn. Is that true?
No.
It really feels like it.
He was in the stands though, wasn't he?
He
was when we won the national championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Good for Bo Nix.
His dad is a high school football coach about 45 minutes up the street.
That's what's up. That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's the reason Cam Coleman is at Auburn. So yeah, man, Bo still loves Auburn. Don't let the media fool you. He still
No,
lingers
he had to do what
around.
he had to do. I mean, he got
Yeah,
drafted.
Yeah.
He's up up there in Denver now. Can't breathe.
yeah, yeah.
Nice.
He'll be good in Denver too. All right, so I could talk football all day too. I know D too.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yes, Lord. You already know I can.
all right, so we're gonna get everybody out of here on this. Obviously, Final Four. You guys are both gonna be there. We're gonna have Jack from
Yeah.
our side. He'll be there. So hopefully, all the College Huddle folks
Yeah,
can
we
get
need to
down there
link.
and
We need
Yeah.
to figure something
meet
out
up.
with that.
Let me do this real quick. Daniel, tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay, you can find me on YouTube or on X. On X, it is at Gator Podcast as written there. Little bit of rebrand coming, and I'm sure if anyone that listens to me listen to this, they're like, "What are you talking about?" The name of the podcast was, and you'll probably find it on YouTube, Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. That's a mouthful. There's a whole story on why it's way too long, and it has basically to do with a friend communicating with his friend to make our logo and added all that junk. So we're just going to shorten it to Gator Truth. So again, little thing to tell people, hey, tune into this episode of the Duke podcast and you might hear some fun things about our podcast. Get you guys a few more listeners in that
Perfect.
too. Why not? But yes,
No doubt. No doubt.
check us out. It is, or check me out. It's mostly football stuff also, and maybe we'll start this again soon on the College Huddle. If you check out, if you search "Why We Huddle" on YouTube, you'll find some episodes I did where we look at different schools and their fandoms, just talking about what makes different schools great. At some point, I do need to have you guys on from Duke or Blake. I believe I'd reached out one time and our schedule didn't hook up, or maybe I'm thinking about someone else as I was trying to arrange all these things. And unfortunately, that stopped for a while, but hopefully over the summer, I'll get that started again. But some great stories about Kansas State and Kennesaw State and several other great schools, but those are just two that stick out in mind. So I do want to give a shout out to our friends at College Huddle who let me do that as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm gonna definitely have to check that out. I always try to shout out College Huddle any chance I get, man, because they really open things up for us, and I think TK would agree with that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's been awesome this year. It's our first year in College Huddle. Being able to interact with opposing fan bases and just
Yeah.
kind of hear their perspectives on their teams, and you kind of realize how similar fans think about their own teams
Yep.
when you start hearing it. And I think what makes sports so amazing is that you live and die by your team. And you got Daniel over there living and dying with Florida. Blake, you're doing it with Auburn, and it's like they're talking the same way about their teams as we talk about our teams, and I think
Yeah.
that's what makes it so amazing. But Blake, yeah, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me at the Uptempo Pod. Me and my boy Dustin, we cover Auburn
Not me.
football, basketball,
Not me.
yeah, we get to do it all, right? And so it's pretty fun. Like if you become a member, like we release recruiting updates and all that stuff. We try to do the YouTube shorts and all that. I think you can find us at what's the Apple Podcast and all that stuff, Spotify and all that. We try to link the shows there at the Uptempo Pod, and on X, formerly known as Twitter, same thing at the Uptempo Pod. So yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate y'all having me. Good luck to all of you.
Yeah.
I once again, I think this is the
Same.
best Final Four, and I think it's going to be
Agree.
just the hell of fun, man. Like I
Yep.
can't wait.
Just
Yeah,
happy to be here.
it's the perfect way to end this basketball season. The four best teams in the country. It's
Yeah,
going to be absolutely elite basketball, and it's fitting for where this season is gone. That these four are left. And it's going to be unreal. I can't wait. Saturday can't get here fast enough. Appreciate both of you guys jumping on.
Thank you, fellas.
I don't think you said anything too controversial in it.
I appreciate. You know, I'm
You
trying to
want
get.
to
I'm
change
trying to
them.
be better. I'm trying to be
Okay,
better.
all right. We'll see. We'll
Also,
see.
I need some good karma for this weekend. You know what I mean?
See,
This is
I
good karma.
felt he liked trying to be controversial, so I had to give him a little nudge there earlier on. You know, play into it just a little bit. So it's always fun when we had an SEC Huddle show, which we need to start that back up as well. We had a guy from LSU who was friends with Mike, the Tennessee College Huddle guy, and he and I talk a lot now behind the scenes, but when we're on together, it was how can I prod him this week and get him to go on some sort of rant.
Oh no.
Well, the good news is we don't usually have to prod D. He'll just
Yeah, I normally do it on my own.
All right. Well, appreciate you boys jumping on.
Yeah, TK.
Everybody knows where to find us: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, Discord. I've said it a million times over the season. Get yourself on our Discord. It's the greatest place for Duke game day chats, recruiting updates, whatever you guys want. Definitely check us out.
Pre and post game spaces on Twitter.
Pre and post game spaces on Twitter. You know where it is. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you in San Antonio. Go Duke.
Go
Go
Duke.
Gators.
War Eagle.